Welcome to Startup Spotlight on BusinessDay Television. On today's episode, we spotlight the topic empowering SMEs, simplifying sourcing, expanding credit access, driving growth. Every day across Nigerians, thousands of small business owners wake up with one goal: to grow. But for many, the journey isn't easy, from finding trusted suppliers, accessing credit, and managing daily operations can feel like climbing a mountain. My name is Gloria Brown, and joining me is Ugonna Ginigeme, who is a two-time startup founder and a CEO at Feegor, an AI-powered business platform and wholesale marketplace that helps small and medium-sized businesses across Africa easily find, buy, and manage products from the start to the finish. Welcome to the show, Ugonna Ginigeme.
Thank you so much, Gloria, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So quickly, for those of us hearing Feegor for the first time, what is it all about and who are the audience that the platform is for?
Okay, so that's a great question. So Feegor is basically, it's a very simple platform that is built to enable SMEs to source goods more efficiently. Right, so it's an AI-powered business-to-business wholesale marketplace and a software as a service platform that enables SMEs discover, negotiate, and source goods directly from a verified network of suppliers and manufacturers. So think about a typical SME, let's say someone in Ibadan who needs to source goods, right? Typically, that SME might have to travel from Ibadan down to Lagos to source goods the traditional way. Visit one of the major markets. The person is limited supplies in that market. Nobody's going to give that SME credit, and this has been the inefficient way that SMEs have been sourcing products over the years, right? So what Feegor is doing today is we are making it possible for existing suppliers. Think of the suppliers in trade fair market. Think of the suppliers in Alaba. Think of the suppliers in Balogun. Think of the manufacturers in Kano or in Aba, right? We make it possible for these suppliers and manufacturers to have an online presence such that businesses that want to source goods in bulk can easily discover them, negotiate, pay, and source goods from them. Then we support the process with access to credits through buy now, pay later.
So how do you ensure trust and reliability when it comes to the supplier and the retailers in your platform?
So that's a great question. So the first thing we do is we make sure that every supplier or manufacturer on Feegor has been verified. Right, so once you're sourcing from a supplier or manufacturer on the Feegor platform, you're sourcing from a verified supplier, right? And also, we also act as a sort of escrow, right? So you're not sourcing from the supplier outside of the platform. All the transactions are housed on the platform, right? So your money is safe. We make sure your goods are safe. And if there's any dispute whatsoever, we're able to intervene and make sure that, it is resolved amicably for all parties.
As a startup founder, what has been the challenges when it comes to funding or getting investors?
So I think it's quite, the fundraising markets has seen better days, right? It's quite a slow market today, but I think it's picking up. We're optimistic. For us, we are here for the long haul, right? So we know for a fact that investors are interested in what we are building. Right, investors are definitely going to be part of the journey. Investors want to see Africa succeed, and we are definitely building for that market. So while the market is slower than it has been in the past, we are confident that it will pick up, and so we are happily engaging with investors and looking to continue to build and scale Feegor.
Okay, let's talk about trust and data security. How do you ensure data security between SMEs and suppliers?
That's a great question. So, like I mentioned earlier, everything is happening on the platform, right? So you see, the first thing is to make sure that all of the suppliers' data, right, are housed, they are secure, they are protected on our platform. We've put in a lot of measures, we put in best practices in place to make sure that data is secured. And then the retailers who are sourcing from these suppliers, right, they are just exposed to the sort of the information they need to know to make a buying decision, typically about products. Right, so they will just know maybe the suppliers in location, like for example, suppliers in Lagos Island in Lagos, right, or in Etiosa in Lagos, right? And then the supplier sells this product and that product, and then this is the product information. So that is all the buyer needs to know to make a buying decision, right? And then when that order is placed, all the supplier needs to know is somebody has bought the product, this is the location, these are the goods that have been bought and whatnot. So we don't expose any unnecessary data, and we make sure that data is secured. And it's also very important that we manage that process to avoid circumvention, because we want to make sure that the transactions are kept on our platform, so that it is safe and secure for all stakeholders.
For all stakeholders, that has to do with my next question's partnership. How do you manage partnership when it comes to financial institutions, distributors, and manufacturers?
That's a very interesting question. So the way to think about partnerships is, there's a way we think about that Feegor, right? It's always a win-win or no deal situation, right? So whenever we think of a partnership with maybe a manufacturer or a financial institution, the first thing is, why should they care about partnering with Feegor? What's in it for them, right? How do they win through this partnership? And then what's in it for us? How do we win through this partnership, right? So because of our unique approach to partnerships, we're always able to find a mutually beneficial structure that makes sense for any of our partners. So for example, if you talk about a financial institution, right? What financial institutions are trying to make more money, right? They're trying to increase their user base. If they're into lending, they're trying to see how they can lend more and reduce their risk, right? Feegor knows the SMEs, Feegor knows what the SMEs are sourcing, Feegor knows, the volumes the SMEs are doing on a monthly basis. And so we are able to partner with these financial institutions to sort of reduce their risk when it comes to lending to these SMEs, because there is historical data, right? So the financial institution now can lend, right, in a safer way. They can reduce their risk, they can still make money. For the SME, they are getting credits at better terms, which makes sense for them, right? So they're able to grow their business. For us, we're happy to facilitate that transaction because we want to see these SMEs grow, so it's always a win-win situation. It's the same approach when we talk about manufacturers, when we talk about logistics partners and so on. We always think, how do we make sure both parties win? And if we cannot find a mutual ground to ensure that both parties win, we don't go ahead with it. But I can tell you today, all our partners are very, very happy.
We'll take a short break now, but don't go anywhere. There's more insights coming your way right after this break. Welcome back to Startup Spotlight. If you're just joining us, we've been speaking with the CEO of Feegor about how the platform is transforming the way SMEs across Africa source products and access credits. So let's talk about some of the biggest challenges that Feegor has faced while scaling the African markets.
Okay, thank you for that, Gloria. That's an interesting question. So one of the major challenges has been logistics. You see, logistics plays a major role when it comes to sourcing, right? Or when it comes to procurement, or basically moving goods, right? And so what happens is, logistics is not cheap, it's expensive, you see. And so for a lot of SMEs, they are typically always looking for ways to reduce logistics costs, right? Now, as a company, you have to build sustainably, right? And so that means that you're not able to, because we are not charging directly, right? We have logistics partners. Those partners need to render a service. They need to charge for that service, right? And so as you're dealing with logistics on a day-to-day basis, sometimes, right? For example, if you think about an SME, let's say a retailer in Kano, for example, right? They're trying to source goods from Lagos. You're trying to source, let's say, 100 bags of rice. You can imagine the cost of moving 100 bags of rice from Lagos all the way down to Kano. Maybe it's even a remote village somewhere in Kano, right? Or you're sourcing from Abuja to Anambra or something, right? So the logistics cost and even finding the right logistics partner, it's a very, very broken process, right? Because you have to think about partnering, you have to think about route optimization, you have to think about order aggregation, you have to ensure that the goods get to the right address, at the right time, in good condition. So I think logistics has been challenging. We don't handle logistics directly as a company. We partner with logistics companies, 3PLs, third-party logistics companies, but we need to ensure that those customers can have their goods delivered at the right price, the right landing cost, which is cost of goods and cost of logistics, right? Delivered on time as well, and also delivered in good condition. So yeah, I'll say it has been a challenge, but it's something that, we continue to work on and improve on.
Working on it and improving on it has to do with technology, right?
Of course.
So what role do you see technology, especially AI, playing in reshaping the future of Africans SMEs?
Brilliant question. So for us, we're a technology company. We're a technology and a data company. That's how we think about Feegor, right? And so we are very big on AI, right? We're very big on leveraging machine learning algorithms to optimize these processes. So for example, if you think about a supermarket,
Okay.
right? Let's say a supermarket in Ikoyi, right? That supermarket must source for products, right? Now, using AI and machine learning, you can understand everything about that supermarket's buying patterns, right? What they source, when they source, how much they
Pricing and all
source,
that.
pricing, everything
Well
about it.
detailed.
Very detailed. In fact, with AI, you can know more about that supermarket than the supermarket knows about themselves, right? So you can do things like hyper personalization, right? You can make intelligent business recommendations. You can have intelligent route optimizations even for logistics. Intelligent routing to partners as well for others and so on. So yes, we are very big on AI. We are very big on machine learning. We are very big on technology as a whole. And we believe that technology, especially the way we are building it at Feegor, would be instrumental in optimizing sourcing for SMEs across Africa and ensuring that SMEs continue to thrive across the continent.
Yeah. As a startup founder, I must commend that a lot of effort is being put behind the scene. So where do you see your platform in the next 5 years in this competition space?
That's a great question. So for us, our vision is to optimize product sourcing end to end for SMEs across Africa, right? So what that means is we want to optimize the way businesses, the way SMEs discover the right suppliers and manufacturers for them, the way they negotiate, the way they pay, the way they access credit, and the way goods are fulfilled, right? We see ourselves becoming Africa's largest wholesale marketplace, right? We want to make it possible for Afua in Ghana to be able to easily source goods from Olabisi in Ogun State and have those goods delivered seamlessly, right? We want to make it very possible for somebody that is in Kenya to be able to source goods from somebody who is in Rwanda, right? Or somebody who is in South Africa, or somebody who is in Togo, right? So for us, it's about making Africa seem like one market. And we think that our unique approach will make that possible. We are modeling Feegor after Alibaba, right? As we're having this conversation today, if we wanted to source goods from China, we can easily go to Alibaba right now, or we can see suppliers or manufacturers in China. But if we wanted to source goods from even Ibadan, right? Or from Accra, or from Nairobi, how do you find the suppliers there? It doesn't exist today. So that's what we are building. And we believe that will become Africa's largest wholesale marketplace, the Alibaba of Africa, and definitely one of Africa's most successful startups.
As a founder, so looking back, what challenges have you faced in the African ecosystem startup?
So the ecosystem is growing, right? The ecosystem is growing. You can't compare it with some more mature ecosystem, but what we are seeing is there is all-round growth. There have been a few exits. There are investors, right? There are more startups doing very amazing things. But in terms of challenges, I'll say one of the challenges is because it's still a growing ecosystem, because it's still quite relatively young, right? There's not enough funding. So there are definitely challenges around funding, because funding is instrumental to growth, right? So if there's more funding and that funding is channeled properly, there would be more growth. Right. So I think funding has been one challenge in the ecosystem. I think we also need to see more partnerships, right, in the ecosystem. I think that's something that would really help startups to scale better. So I think there is still a disconnect between the startup ecosystem and corporates, right? So it's like they are almost existing in two different worlds. You don't see a lot of high-level collaboration between startups and corporates. There is collaboration, but it's few. right? So somebody who is just starting, let me say a payments company today, it'll be very difficult for you to just partner with one of the maybe leading banks, right? Because they will look at you like you're still a small player, right? So I think we need to see more advocacy for the ecosystem, especially from corporates. We also need to see more funding definitely go into the ecosystem as well.
So I asked about the lessons and mistakes as a founder. So what are the lessons you've learned over the years as a startup founder in the startup ecosystem?
Yeah. So lots of lessons because I've been doing this for a while now, right? There's a lot of lessons, but I think I'll talk about a few that are very, very important. One of them is, you have to measure everything. Anything you cannot measure, you cannot manage, right? You have to measure everything. So you have to build or execute fast, measure, and then learn from it, right? So that's something very important. You have to focus on the people. It's all about the people, right? The team you build is the company you build, right? So you have to make sure you get the right people on the bus and take the wrong people off the bus, right? You have to think about the culture of your company, right? Because it's easier to create or form a company culture when the company is still in its early stages, right? And like they say, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So if you don't get your company culture right, you're likely to fail. You have to pay attention to your customers. You have to know everything about your customers, right? You have to know your customer better than almost anybody else. You have to be obsessed with your customers. It's also something that is very, very important. And finally, I'll talk about processes, right? Everything has to be about processes. So for example, at Feegor, something goes wrong. The first thing we're saying is, what's the process for this to happen? Like, what went wrong? Do we know what the process is? At what point did that process fail? How do we fix it? So you have to think about processes for everything. You can't scale if you don't have the right processes. So I think these are some of the most important lessons that come to mind at the moment.
As a founder, when you're not building Feegor, how do you unwind or find inspiration outside your work? Because I know a lot of startups go through thinking processes. How do I get this done?
Yeah.
How do I figure this out? So how do you unwind or how do you find inspiration outside your work?
Startups are tough, really. So that's a very important question. Startups are very hard. I think it's one of the hardest anybody can do, actually. So you want to build a startup. You want to build something from nothing. You have to be a little crazy to do that. But because of the pressure, it's very important to find time to unwind. For me personally, I like to, so when I feel overwhelmed, I like to zone out a bit, right? Even if it's just for a few hours or a few days, I like to zone out a bit. I like to hang out with friends, right? Either, we're just going somewhere, having drinks and gisting, something to just distract me from from all the things I have to do, right? So have a few drinks, hang out with friends, listen to good music. I like a place where there's good music, it could be any kind of music, but just good music, good vibes. I also like to play games, especially chess and Monopoly, right? I like board games, so that also helps me to just, relax. Sometimes video games as well. But yeah, basically just hang out, talk to people, have a good time, play games, yeah.
Finally, what advice can you give to young entrepreneurs or startup founders looking forward to build businesses in the African startup system?
You have to be extremely resilient. It's going to be tougher than it looks. It's going to be longer than you think it will take. It's going to be more difficult than you would likely imagine, right? And so if you're not fully convinced that you can sacrifice a lot of things, if you're not fully convinced that you can, that you won't give up, you'll keep going, right? Against all odds, don't do it. But if you're convinced and, you're ready to give it your all, then keep going. Doors will be shut in your face. People would say no to you, but it's all part of the game. No, it's just the next opportunity, right? Focus on your people. Try to get the best team you can. Get people who believe in your vision, who are able to go the long haul with you. Think about your processes from day one. Obsess over your customer, right? Focus on launching as fast as possible, learning what's not working, learning what is working, double down on what is working, fix what is not working, and then just keep going through that cycle. And then most likely you'll be successful. I said most likely because it's not guaranteed. You can do all of that and still
Yeah.
fail, but yeah,
Well, we're hoping for
yeah,
you to succeed on the status
by God's
spotlight.
grace.
Thank you so much, Ugonna Bona, for sharing such inspiring insight
Thank you so
on
much.
status spotlight.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. That's all for today's episode. It's been great having you with us. Don't forget to drop a comment, share with a friend, and follow at Business Day Television. You can also connect with me at Gloria_Brown. Until next time, keep watching Business Day Television.